Akihiko is finally in P5X, but he released at a very unfortunate time, just 2 weeks before the anniversary. Still, I'm gonna put that aside and judge him based on purely how good he is. And as always, I have also tested his weapon. So let me explain how he works first. It is rather straightforward DPS. So at A0, he gains 2 metal stacks at the start of battle, and then when you deal damage with either a skill or DRG, you gain another metal stack, and this can stack up to 12 times. And then you can spend 6 stacks to activate Flash Blow. So what this Flash Blow does is does AoE physical damage, and you increase down foes damage taken by 8% for 1 turn. And this is counted as a resonance. And you also gain 1 grid stack. We will talk about this later on, because the skill tree uses this, and the grid stack increase pierce rate by 4% up to 3 times, so that is 12% pierce rate. So the important thing about this Flash Blow thing is that it allows you to knock down enemies, because it's a physical hit, and if it crits, you will remove down point. The skill 1 gains crit stack, and it's an AoE electric move, and it increases his crit damage for 3 turns. Skill 2, also AoE electric move, but you get 2 metal stacks. Just take note that grid and metal stacks are different stuff. Skill 3 also AoE electric move, and when you have 2 or more grid stack, you spend all grid stack and increase skill multiplier for each stack, so it can stack up to 3 times. DRG, it has a very high requirement, 140. For reference, Kari was 70 and Makoto was 100. You do AoE electric move, and this DRG has a 100% chance to crit, and it has a maximum cap of 350% crit damage. Assist will buff one ally's crit damage by 20%. This is pretty nice. It's only for 1 turn, but you use it on a turn where you burst. First passive, you increase 30% damage on downed enemies. So it makes like this Flash Blow thing quite useful, quite important as well. Then the second passive is when Akihiko crits, increase attack for 3 turns up to 3 stacks. So this is up to like 40.5%. So the general gist is you get 6 metal stacks, okay, you need 6, and you use Flash Blow on the burst turn, which is turn 3 and turn 6. Then you use DRG, and then you use Q3. This is basically the rotation. Then there's also DRG here, DRG here. As long as follow this rotation, you don't really need to worry about the stacks and stuff. Like the 2 metal stacks, the grid stack, everything, it will match up as long as you follow rotation. And if you are Yukari, this is something I'll talk about a bit later. You really want Yukari for Akihiko to really use this rotation, and more importantly, use DRG 2 times. Let me quickly talk about weapon. First weapon increase attack, and increase attack more when you have 2 or more grid stacks. First weapon increase crit damage, which is very nice, we all like that. And it also increase crit rate up to 2 stacks of metal. Then when you use a skill, DRG and resonance that crits, you increase the damage by 34%. Then awareness, A1 will increase DRG gauge by 70 at the start of battle. This is very useful. If you have A1 Akihiko, then you don't need Yukari, because A1 Akihiko allows you to DRG 2 times. A2 will increase the down bonus by 10%, so you do more damage to down foes. And then when you spend metal stacks to activate Flash Blow, so this one, the one from the A0, will increase his damage by 30% for 3 turns. And A4 buffs the DRG crit damage by 50%. And A6 you immediately gain 6 metal stacks, so it allows you to use the Flash Blow immediately. And then increase the max metal stacks to 18. And for each crit stack you spend, increase damage by 8%, and you can now stack up to 4 crit stacks. Then when you spend crit to activate skill 3, you activate finishing blow. So this is another like attack. At first, just now we have Flash Blow, then A6 gives you another one which is called finishing blow. And finishing blow's damage is based on number of crit stacks that you spend during his turn, and you will deal a crit damage for each stack. And you also have 100% pierce because it ignores defense. And it also counts as resonance, and guarantees crit, and you also gain crit stack. Now I want to talk about the buff that Akihiko got. So there's, at this moment, there's no official notes or patch notes or whatever on the buff that he got. Yeah, I haven't really seen anyone like posted online on the buff he got. So I'm gonna be that guy and I'll show you the buff. So Akihiko got some nice buffs, nothing crazy, but some nice buff. And actually no, there is one very strong buff here. I'll get to it. So A0, they added an extra debuff here, 8% down damage taken increase. Very small, but it's a nice buff, I guess. It allows your DRG, your skill 3 to do more damage, and it makes knocking down enemies even more important now. The skill 3 also got a small buff. It's 40.9 to 48.8%. So it's like 8% increase. But the thing is that this skill multiplier can stack up to 3 times. So it's like 24%, which is quite nice, I guess. Now the biggest buff that he got is the buff to his DOG. Previously, his DOG caps at 200% crit damage, but now it caps at 350%. This is a very good buff. It makes his DOG do pretty good damage now. It's not as good as the skill 3. The skill 3 still the majority of his damage, but DOG also do good damage. And you want to definitely get 250% crit damage, which is actually pretty easy to do. His Mindscape also gives crit damage, so you can just max that out, and the 5-star weapon also gives crit damage. Or you can also run like Yerlanger, Thor, Dionysus, all of them give crit damage as well. So it's quite easy to cap. A4 also got a buff. It's a 20% to 50% increase for the DOG, and now the DOG hits for the maximum of 400% crit damage, which is very high. A6 also got a small buff. The finishing blow skill, this thing, do a bit more damage. Actually, quite a bit more actually. 5% to 13.5, that's like double, more than double. So that's nice, I guess, if you're going for E6. As always, for this first impression video, I always test the 5-star weapon because they are usually the easiest to test. So at first glance, you would think that this weapon is really good. That's what I thought. Plus crit damage, plus crit rate, plus damage. That's a lot of stuff this weapon buffs. It's definitely an improvement over this one. Actually, let's compare it to another DPS weapon, Kasumi. Kasumi also buffs crit damage. In fact, it's the exact same 36.3% crit damage. She also buffs attack, she buffs some damage, and some more damage here. So the strength wise, about the same. And Kasumi's weapon gives you like 16 to 18% increase to your score, which is pretty decent, pretty good. So you would expect Akihiko to do the same, 16, 18, or maybe even higher, because like these numbers, 34, 36.3, these are pretty good numbers. And crit rate as well. I cannot reach crit without this crit rate, so it's very valuable for me. And honestly, I thought this weapon would be one of the best 5-star weapon in the game. And after I tested it, I was completely wrong. This is, I dare say, one of the weakest DPS 5-star weapon in the game. This caught me off guard actually. 10%, 13, 11, that's not high at all. If you're not hitting 15%, your weapon is a little bit lackluster. The weapon seems kind of similar to Kasumi's weapon. They buff crit damage, buff damage. But why is Akihiko like worse by quite a significant amount? And actually it didn't take me long to realize why. The reason is because of the DOG. The DOG has a guaranteed chance to crit and has a cap of 350% crit damage. In other words, this and also this is useless for the DOG. I did hit the cap for my crit damage, so this is useless, this is also useless. So DOG only got this 34% buff. And the buff to DOG, you can even say that indirectly nerfs the weapon, because now the DOG does more damage, which makes the weapon a little bit less valuable. And if you have like A1 Anj for example, this weapon becomes even more useless because you can quite easily reach the crit cap for your skill 3 or something. And that's why the weapon is actually one of the weakest weapons in P5X, at least for DPS. Now let me quickly share some of my thoughts on Akihiko. I still haven't touched on his strength yet. He is strong. I think he's the strongest sweeper in the game right now. However, you need Yukari. Let me briefly explain why. I'll talk about it in another video. I plan to make a rotation teammate guide for Akihiko. So this is a Yukari and turbo rotation. Did 300 million, which is really good by the way. The first time I hit 300 million for an A0 DPS, so that's something. With Yukari, you can do a DOG here and also here. You can do 2 DOGs because of Yukari's DOG charge, right? You can give charge to Akihiko. Now if I remove Yukari and replace Yukari with the twins, it drops a lot. Just now it was 306, now it becomes 260. That's a big drop. And it makes sense because you lack the DOG. Not only do you lack the DOG, you're out. This is the punch skill, the A0 punch skill, I forgot the name already. You want to use this before the DOG to knock down the enemies, but you don't get enough metal stacks to do that. So you have to use it a bit later. So that's another problem. The 2 problems without Yukari. One less DOG and you're out. You have to do it like one action. Like not even one action, but like one click later. And I haven't recorded out all the numbers. The DOG here did 5.5 million, so you pretty much sacrifice or remove the damage here, which is quite a lot. It's not as high as the skill 3. Skill 3 here 6.9, 5.7, 7.8. Skill 3 still does more damage, but DOG also does good damage. In other words, you do want Yukari for Akihiko. for the DLG. But I mean, even if you don't have Yukari, this still like respectable score, 260. But I think without Yukari, Akihiko might be as good as Akechi, probably. I have no way to test that. Actually, I kind of do have a way to test that, because Akechi is like neutral. But yeah, anyways, I think they're about the same if you don't have Yukari for Akihiko. But you don't need Yukari if you pull for A1 Akihiko, because like I already said, the A1 gives you 70 DLG gauge, so you're already halfway charged at the start of battle. So you can do a regular like 2 DLG in 6 turns. So should you pull Akihiko? Honestly, probably not. Especially if you already have a Akechi or even Firecracker Rin. I think Akihiko is okay to skip, even though he does really good damage. And I will just wait for the anniversary news. In fact, I think by the time this video releases, the anniversary news is coming in like 12 hours or something. I will just wait for that. Wait for the kit review of the anniversary maybe. Who knows, it's a DPS, I don't know. But yeah, I will suggest you to just wait for the anniversary news.